Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Don't you understand, George? It's because you were not born.
Film church.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Did it ever occur to you to try and work for a living?
Hello, and welcome to Film Church Radio. This is the podcast that treats cinema as a religion. It's Sunday. I'm Brandon.
I'm Lewis.
And we're here to talk about movies. Each week, Lewis and I alternate picking a film for us both to watch and discuss. However, it is the first Sunday of the month. So do you know what that means, Lewis?
I think I know what that means, Brandon.
That's right. You do know what that means. It means we have a special guest today. I first met our guest prepping for a film shoot the day before we were scheduled to shoot, and then spent the next few days filming, which is kind of the best way to get to know someone or, you know, a filmmaker. Our guest is a director and a cinematographer. He's a podcast host of Real Inspectors and the founder of the Broken Lens Film Festival. Congregation, please give a warm welcome to none other than Mr. Mitch Norris.
Oh. Hey, do I say something here? I'm sorry.
Well, basically, we asked Mitch to pick the film to start us off for Noirvember. It is now November. Last month we did horror films, and this month we're doing noirs. So that was his only stipulation in picking the film. So what film do you have for us, Mitch? What are we talking about?
The film I chose is Thief from 1981. It's directed by Michael Mann and stars James Cann, Tuesday Weld, Willie Nelson, and Jim Belushi. So yeah, I picked this film because it's not like, I think we talked about this too, Brandon. Like, it's not like I'd say like a stereotypical pick. It's more of a modern thing.
Yeah.
And I enjoy, good synthy, gritty, dark 80s films.
Yeah.
So this was really up my alley.
Yeah, man. It was a good pick.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, it's more like when I think of film noir, I automatically think of like old, like 40s and 50s black and white, but
Sure.
It's like still here throughout all of cinema history. And as you will find out at the end of the episode, the film that I picked for next week isn't an old film. So stay till the end to find out what that is.
Tantalizing.
Before we get into the show, we, as a film church, just want to say thank you to our congregation and listeners for being here. It means the world to us that you come and listen to us every week and hear us discuss these films, and it's nice that there's people out there sharing this experience with us. Please give us a follow on all the social medias at Film Church Radio and let us know what you think of the show and what you might want us to watch in the future. You can also find us on our YouTube channel, where if you're not on there currently, this podcast in particular right now is video. So if you want to see our faces and see the video portion of this podcast, go to our YouTube channel at Film Church Radio. Normally, at this point, we talk about films that we've been watching for the week.
Yeah.
But as it is that we have a special guest, we want to get to know him a little bit and ask him a lot of cinematically religious questions.
Deep, personal.
There's a definite theme
questions.
to the questions.
Yeah, for real.
I noticed.
Again, thank you so much for being here, Mitch.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be here. This is exciting. This is fun. I love listening to the podcast anyway, so it's a great honor to be here with you guys. So
Yeah, thanks, man. Like I've been
Pleasure's
looking
all
forward to
mine.
this.
Yeah, me too, definitely.
So, the first question I have for you is, what made you convert to the Church of Film?
Oh gosh. So like, I guess I can go back to like my earliest memories of like movies, and I guess probably my earliest memory is my dad taking me to the video rental store to rent Star Wars. Um, so just like that bonding experience, of like bonding over a film that, my dad obviously thought was really cool and that I should see, and getting to stay up later than usual. Like I got to watch the first two. Obviously the prequels weren't out at the time, so I watched New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, back to back. Was just a great experience, and I just always remember going to like the video rental store or Blockbuster like on a Friday night, like, when dad was coming home, and just like that whole experience is just transcendent,
Yeah.
So I've always been in love with movies and stuff. So just having the VHS tape and watching movies like, Ghostbusters and Indiana Jones and Rocky, and just getting into all that stuff as a kid was just amazing, and it was a great way to like relate to people too, especially as someone who's more introverted, like showing someone your favorite film is just like a form of telepathy almost. Like you get to say, hey, this is something that I felt, and like I want you to feel it and share those feelings. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but like
for sure.
As a religious experience, like I get what you're talking about. So
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean,
church.
Star Wars. It's interesting. Like it's cool that you can remember like going and doing that and watching it for the first time, because it feels like I don't remember watching Star Wars for the first time. It just is like I think I just
It's always been there.
yeah. But like I have older siblings and older cousins and stuff, and like I think they just had it on all the time, and it probably just is like
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember. I mean, I was probably like 2 years old or something when I first saw it. So
well, I was the only kid in the house at the time.
Yeah.
So it was very much, like my dad saying, okay, like it's time for you to see this. You know, it was like a rite of passage kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that experience of like just staying up, because, I had a specific bedtime. So I remember it very clearly because I got to stay up late and it was awesome. And, I'd never seen anything like it, at the time. So mostly just like cartoons and, children's TV shows, and like, it was just like a big, wake up call, like an experience, like, whoa, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
my life has changed forever now.
Yeah. Basically.
Awesome.
I feel like as a generation, we were super lucky to grow up with video stores and be able to go and kind of just let our imagination run wild in that way. I mean, there's so many films that we've watched for the first time, and like the cover of the VHS, I remember from Blockbuster, from seeing it on the shelf and being like, what the heck is that? That looks incredible. It's a shame that, everything now is just kind of, you don't have that opportunity.
Sometimes if I close my eyes, I can recreate the smell. So like if I could get that as a candle, like I would totally buy that.
That would be amazing. Oh my God.
I always remember
it's a magical experience that I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I always remember that the carpet at the front of the store was always a heck of a lot dirtier than any other part of the carpet. Like just where the door was, it was like black and then just like blended into the yellow or whatever it was. Right. It was so dirty.
Or they have those films that people have just returned up front, and you're going through them to see if you can find the film you want because it was just recently released,
Yeah.
Like, they don't have it, then you're out of luck. So I feel like that's an experience that like younger folks today, they don't know what we're talking about. So, what? You went to a store? Netflix was a store?
It's a shame. I mean, so if you were showing a film to people on a Sunday, say it was a church, I don't know, using that metaphor a lot. If you were the guest preacher, what film would you bring with you to be like, hey, this is the pinnacle of my cinema. This is what everyone should see.
That's so tough. That's like probably one of the hardest questions, because it's like, what's your favorite movie, right? You know, it's
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
there's so many different categories. There's so many different reasons why, you know, I watch films too. So, you know, like I'm tempted to say like, you know, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, you know, but that's a long haul. That's a trilogy, you know, that's 3 different films. So that doesn't really count. You know, I thought about saying The Big Lebowski simply because I am actually a member of the Dude Church. So, you know, it kind of fits with the whole theme there.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up earlier because you're
Yeah.
like, you're an ordained minister in dudism, right?
It's super easy to do. All you have to do is go to the website and just order a card. Like, because, you know, the whole religion is about taking it easy, right? So, you know, it wouldn't be very complicated to do. But it's tough to say. This is going to be kind of like a weird choice, but I want to say like Drive.
Yeah.
I remember the first time that I watched that movie, I immediately went to the menu and played it again. Like I was
Nice.
just so like enthralled with the music, and it's a very simple film, but the payoff is great. And I think I remember you saying this in the last episode too, Brennan, that like the older that you get, the less you care about plot. And obviously, you know, I've mentioned Lord of the Rings earlier before, but you know, I used to pore over maps of like Middle Earth and try to learn Elvish and stuff like that. Whereas like now, as I'm older, I care much more about like the themes and the character development and stuff, and also like the style and the visuals. So I think like that film for me just like perfectly encapsulates why I want to make movies. You know, it's kind of like a perfect little film with a great soundtrack. And it's super stylish.
Yeah.
So probably that.
Yeah, that's a film that I have been thinking a lot about since watching Thief. So we'll probably talk about it some more in a little bit. But
it's in the same vein. Yeah. I have some things to say about that too. But
yeah, that's cool. So what does film heaven look like, if there is such a thing for you? You know, if like there was a version of heaven that would just be the perfect film heaven.
I feel like that's really vague, but I'll try to answer as best I can.
Maybe you don't believe in film heaven. That's okay.
Yeah, no, like I'm what would you call that? Like a film atheist? I don't know. I'm going with this theme of the church. But like I would have to say probably that and this is kind of like abstract, I guess, but like just a giant premiere night, you know, like if you could bottle up that feeling of anticipation of like waiting for a film for years and it's finally that night, you know, before, you know, ticket pre-sales on, you know, apps and stuff, you'd have to go and wait in line and stuff. And just that anticipation, like if you could bottle that up and it was just that every single day, like all the time, I feel like that's what film heaven would be. Something similar to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of really abstract and stuff. Probably not the answer you're looking for.
It's still, I mean, it's like anybody that's a film lover, you know, when you
knows that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people understand it and have been there.
Yeah. Because Brandon and I, we went to see the last Star Wars together, and we had that feeling before we walked into the cinema.
Well, see,
I did not last very long.
No.
Yeah.
I had that feeling before I walked into the cinema for Force Awakens. By the time we got to Rise of Skywalker, I remember me and my friend were just sort of like making fun of it at that point, just like laughing, like, let's get this over with.
Yeah.
But definitely before Force Awakens, like there hasn't been a Star Wars for so long, like it's going to be amazing. And like going back to Star Wars, I know I've already talked about it, but I was like right on the cusp, like right at the right age, like right before the prequels came out, that I got to see the originals before there were prequels. Yeah. So I remember that anticipation and excitement that not just I was having, but like my family was having too. Like, oh, this is going to be great. Like there's a new Star Wars, and like we were really into this when we were younger and stuff. So yeah, just that feeling of anticipation is really magical to me. So like if I could feel like that all the time, I feel like it would be heaven. Like just constantly excited to be seeing a film, you know, and without the letdown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a few films that like I love the trailers for, and then I find out that the movie is terrible, and I just won't watch the movie. I'll just keep the trailer to just be like, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And there are some films that are the opposite of that too. Like the trailer is really bad. It does a poor job of like advertising the film properly. I think actually Drive was one of those films, if I remember correctly. Like the trailer is just very, I don't know,
didn't sell it well.
Yeah.
If you were going to officiate a wedding and you had to show a film that like encapsulates what love means, what film would you show?
Marriage Story. No, I'm just kidding.
One
of
my favorites.
No, that's a joke. I'm not serious. Actually, I did do some thinking about this question. Actually, my answer is Shrek. It's a great love story. It's about finding your true soulmate, reevaluating your expectations, and like the message is that the fairy tale love does exist, even if you may not be that Prince Charming or the princess, like you can still make the fairy tale stuff work. So I mean, it's heartwarming. I think it's a great choice for a wedding.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and people would love it too,
Yeah, it would be fun.
It wouldn't be Marriage Story.
No.
Yeah. You can show that the morning after when everyone's had a bit too much drinking. This is what could happen, okay? Just appreciate each other.
Just as a warning to everyone.
Yeah. Don't do this.
No. That's terrible.
So who are your film gods, or maybe there's just one film god?
Oh gosh, there are probably several, right?
Yeah.
So, this is probably cliche, but, like, I love everything Wes Anderson does. I love that he's an auteur, that he doesn't compromise his vision. I love the way he composes his shots and just doesn't compromise at all. But also, I know you have this in common, too. Peter Jackson is a huge inspiration to me. By the way, love that episode about Dead Alive.
It was a good one.
He's great because again, it's an example of someone that I feel like didn't compromise their vision with Lord of the Rings. Like, he was told he could only make one film or two films, and he just decided he was going to make it all at once, and film it in his home country. And like you guys talked a little bit about his background too, but like basically just like garage tactics, like just he comes from a very simple, start, humble beginnings. And also, Kevin Smith comes from those kind of humble beginnings too, like selling his comic book collection to raise the money to make Clerks and stuff. And, so it's really those guys and guys like that who I feel like are so passionate, about the art that they don't compromise their vision, like even if the odds are against you. So, yeah, for sure.
That's kind of the same way for me. A lot of them are, I like love directors' first films, and not even the ones that's like the one that, because a lot of times a filmmaker will say it's like their first film, but then there's like something before that that's like even better. And I feel like there's a lot of those with directors like Quentin Tarantino is like, my first film is Reservoir Dogs, but there's My Best Friend's Birthday that you can find like 40 minutes of on YouTube, and I think it's like hilarious.
Yeah, and then there's like Wes Anderson, getting back to him, there's Bottle Rocket, and then there's like a shorter version of Bottle Rocket, like the original Bottle Rocket, which is great too. Yeah,
man. It's always encouraging as a filmmaker to see those humble beginnings and see like what they did with what they had.
Yeah, it's like that feeling of like they have to get something. You have to get it out of you. Like you just have to make it, and what it's going to be like if you're given the correct resources and enough time to do it the way that you see fit. It's going to turn out great, and like even if people don't quite believe in you at first, just seeing it through and accomplishing it. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
That's great.
Awesome. Love that answer. I feel like the last question we had, you've kind of already answered.
Yeah.
So I want to throw you like a curveball, a double-barreled curveball. What area of film are you most interested in? And the second part to that question is is there a certain like period or maybe a country or something that you're interested in kind of discovering more about, or you're just kind of watching a lot of films from that era, period, place at the moment? You know, seems tough to kind of ask like both questions at the same time. So let's just start with the first one. Like, what parts of like films are you most interested in? I know you kind of already said about like character development and stuff, but is there
Character
a certain
development,
period or
definitely.
anything?
Yeah, definitely style.
Yeah,
So like I do enjoy writing, but I think I enjoy being behind the camera even more because it's like the writing is like fuel for that. So like I've been really like analyzing shots lately and how they're composed and like
yeah,
trying to discover like what like develop a style, I guess you could say. Um, so for me right now, like watching films is basically like going to school, you know, or church, if you will.
Yeah.
Just like it's so like I'm really interested in like signature trademarks of like directors and why they stand out and why it worked for them, and like curious as to what mine are, you know, because like I feel like I haven't developed enough of a body of work to really determine like what my style is, so I'm still kind of
yeah,
like finding that, you know.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the second part to your question was what again?
Yeah, it was like if you're like what part of either film history or is there any kind of country or decade or anything that you're interested in kind of watching more films
Oh
from?
gosh.
Because I know for me it changes all the time.
It changes all the time for me as well. Like I'm a huge fan of fantasy. I think I already touched on that a little bit with Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Like I like the idea of transporting or being transported into a completely different world. Lately, I've been really interested in like gangster films and stuff
Yeah.
Goodfellas and Casino. Like I've watched a lot of Sopranos too, and like the idea of these somewhat likable people, somewhat just being also terrible at the same time, and like the character studies of that, like the character developments of these terrible people that you feel remorse for, you know,
Yeah.
or empathetic towards, and sort of what allures them to like the criminal lifestyle. I find really fascinating, lately, especially. So I've been watching a lot of stuff like that, but kind of like you, it changes in very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just need a podcast to mention someone, and it's like, well, that's it for the next month.
Yeah.
That's gonna be my life.
Right.
So
Down the rabbit hole.
always.
Well, cool. I feel like we know you a little bit better, Mitch. Thank you
Yeah,
for being interrogated by us.
of
Yeah.
course. Happy
You're
to oblige.
now ordained into the Film Church Radio
One
priesthood.
of us.
Yeah. But now, folks, it is time for our feature presentation.
Tonight, his take-home pay is $410,000, tax-free. Frank is an expert professional safecracker specialized in high-profile diamond heists. He plans to use his ill-gotten income to retire from crime and build a nice life for himself, complete with a home, wife, and kids. To accelerate the process, he signs on with a top gangster for a big score.
Amazing. This is Thief 1981, everyone. Great pick, Mitch. Let me just say that first off. This is a film that I added to my list right after James Cann passed a few months ago. May he rest in peace in film heaven.
Yeah.
So I think what we should do is kind of just go around and maybe talk about our knowledge of this film prior to watching it, because I think this is the first time for all of us. and then also, our knowledge or just our relationship or film history with James Caan and Michael Mann as a filmmaker and actor. So, Mitch, why did you pick this film, and what Michael Mann films had you seen and Caan films had you seen?
Honestly, so I know Michael Mann from my first exposure to Michael Mann was the Miami Vice film, which I know is not everyone's first exposure to Michael Mann. But I saw it a few years ago, and I was just like really intrigued by his distinct style. And since then, like I went down the rabbit hole, and I watched Heat. Also like it has similarities to other things that I'm really into right now. So when you told me it was Noirvember, I was like, well, this would be perfect for that,
Yeah.
So yeah, and also James Caan recently passing. Like I brought this up before too, but Bottle Rocket, I watched that not too long ago either, and I saw him in that.
Yeah.
Obviously The Godfather. So I really wanted to see more of his films because I don't feel like have seen enough.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like dipping my toe into that and just saying, wow, what a great opportunity, because like I haven't seen it, we all haven't seen it. So
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, it was a film again that I hadn't seen before, and pretty much the same. I mean, when James Caan died, I saw a lot of think pieces about it. A lot of people talking about it because it was available on Criterion. So, the people involved with Criterion that I follow on Twitter and stuff put out a lot of stuff with links to this film. So that's when I kind of became aware of it. But with James Cann himself, I mean, I can remember before I went to university when I was like 18, my parents the summer before just kind of bought like a lot of films that they thought I should watch before I go to film school, which was brilliant. So like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was one, and the other one was Misery. And I can just like Misery for me is just a film that I've watched a lot and I just absolutely love.
Yeah.
And his performance in that is so good.
Yeah, I love that.
Me too. It's incredible. But Michael Mann is not someone that I feel like I knew a lot about. I mean, I kind of pulled him up on my letterbox to see what I had seen. It was pretty much like Public Enemies, the Johnny Depp like gangster film. That was it. So the same day that I watched Thief, like after it finished, I was like, I've got to watch Heat. So I put Heat. Like I watched Heat that night and just watched it the whole way through. And it was the perfect double bill. It was incredible.
Yeah. Was that your first time seeing Heat?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'd
nice.
never seen it before.
Oh, nice.
So I knew bits about it, and obviously now there's like a novel for the second part. There's like Heat 2 that's just come out that Michael Mann wrote.
Cool.
So yeah, I've put it on hold at the library. I'm like, I've got to read it now. I'm going to see how this kind of keeps going. So yeah, I am now a Michael Mann fan.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm
also,
a Mann fan.
I feel like after you watch Heat, you can see how a lot of films are like super inspired by that too. Like I think Christopher Nolan even mentioned that was a huge inspiration for The Dark Knight, and
I could see
obviously
that.
films like The Town are very similar to owe a lot to it. So that film had always been kind of like on my radar, but like I recently watched it and feel like I'm going down a Michael Mann rabbit hole now. So
and I know that a lot of people haven't noticed this, but Al Pacino is a very good actor. Just he's not very well known, so if you see him in one of those roles, check him out. He's pretty great.
Yeah, some of his like line delivery in Heat is just so off the wall. It's great.
It's incredible.
Insane.
It's incredible.
That's going to be the next
Brendan?
film I have to watch after we finish our podcast tonight. I've seen it before, but it's been several years. So, but yeah, for me, I remember as far as Michael Mann goes, this is kind of early in when I was getting into filmmaking and stuff, and I was like, I think it's either 2004 or 2006. The movie Collateral. I remember seeing the trailers for it and being like, "Ooh, Tom Cruise, he's got gray hair. That's interesting." And this looks like a fun like action movie. Knew that I was like, my parents were not gonna let me go see it. So it's one of the movies that I had to sneakily buy, and at a GameStop visit, which they didn't ID me for rated R movies, so I was able to buy Collateral and sneak it into my bedroom like it was drugs and hide it under the mattress. And
I have similar stories, Brandon. That's why I understand.
It's the homeschool life.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I watched the movie, and I let some friends borrow it too, and we like talked about that movie, and Jamie Foxx is also in it, and he's really good. But it was interesting because a lot of the things that struck me about the experience of watching that movie also were kind of in this movie, Thief. A lot of it. Have you guys seen Collateral?
I've seen it a long time. I know I had it
Yeah.
on DVD in England, so
Yeah.
it was a long time ago.
Similar situation. I've seen it a very long time ago, and I
Yeah.
remember bits and pieces from it. But
Well,
not-
the performance that James Caan gives, I guess mainly the action scenes where he's like holding the gun, and the way that he moves around in some of those scenes when he's specifically when he's holding the gun, reminded me of Tom Cruise and the way that he performs and stuff. And it's all just so matter of fact. It's
Yeah.
not like it does, things don't get crazy and the camera is just like running and following all this crazy action. It's like, very
he's not
professional.
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's all very professional and like matter of fact, but still stylized in like a really cool way. But like, it feels more intense because it's like, it's not trying to trick you into getting excited or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
I read somewhere that Adam Sandler was supposed to play that Tom Cruise character for a little bit, and then he had to drop out.
I like Adam Sandler. I don't think he would have worked.
No, but I was thinking we could have had three films to add to the hey, he's actually quite a good actor.
Yeah, exactly.
We've already got two, so that could have been the third.
I mean, if anybody could have pulled it off, I mean, Michael Mann probably could have, but But I mean, there's a coolness to Tom Cruise's character and James Caan's character in these movies that I just can't imagine Adam Sandler doing. But I don't know, maybe he could. But yeah, I mean, that was my intro to Michael Mann, and so I kind of he wasn't ever somebody that I like dove into after that, but I was always like, comparing it to Collateral. I saw Public Enemies, probably was the second thing I saw. Wasn't a big fan of it. I think mainly because what took me out of it was the way that I think they used like new digital cameras and they like changed the frame rate, and it just didn't like, and the cinema I saw it, I think that was 2009. So I was working at the cinema when that came out, and we had digital projectors. So it was like the fact that it was shot on digital and then digital projectors, it looked weird to me, like right off the bat. And I think it was mainly due to like the frame rate or something.
Yeah.
And it just made it feel fake. Like, it didn't feel like a movie anymore. It just felt like I could see the cameras following these people around and acting. I need to go back and watch it because I might change my mind about it now. A lot of things have changed since then, and maybe I wouldn't see the same thing anymore. And maybe it was just the projector that day or something.
Yeah.
But then then I went back and watched Heat at some point because I was a big fan of The Godfather, and it's like the first time that Robert De Niro and and Al Pacino are in a movie together. Are in a scene together. They were in The Godfather Part 2 together, but Heat was the first time they had scenes together. If you can hear people shouting, it's the Astros game. So sorry, listeners.
If you can hear like jingling every once in a while, it's my dog walking around. I think so. I also apologize for that in advance,
yeah, it's just so happens we're in the World Series right now, and there's people over watching the game. So that's what that was, but it's not commentary to what I'm saying. Anyway, So yeah, and I've never seen anything this early of James Caan. I mean, not James Caan, but
Michael Mann.
Michael Mann. Like what's interesting to me about Thief is how distinct Michael Mann's style is already.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all those things that you could see in Collateral and Heat and, you know, anything else is like it's already there. And this is supposedly his like directorial like feature film debut, though he did like a TV movie, I guess, before this. But as far as James Caan goes, I think maybe the first time I remember seeing him in anything was Elf. In 2003, plays the dad.
Yeah.
Which he's great in, you know, and that came out when I was like 13, so it was like, you know, what I would be introduced to him as. And then eventually going back and watching The Godfather, which was another film that I had to like sneak, and you know, was just like blown away by him in that. And what else? There's a Francis Ford Coppola movie, The Rain People, that he's really good in. It's not my favorite Coppola movie, but it's like pre The Godfather, and he's like his performance in that is awesome. But this Thief might be my favorite thing of him.
Yeah, and you might have that in common with James Caan himself, because he mentioned that this film is one of the films that he's most proud of.
Yeah, which is cool to see. Yeah,
and the diner scene in particular, right? That like extended dialogue scene.
Yeah,
it's a good showcase.
Yeah, so let's get into the movie, like the overall movie itself. Like I think for me it was very I don't know, we like there's a lot of these like noir crime drama thrillers out there, right? Like you mentioned some of them earlier, like Goodfellas and The Godfather, and I mean we just did an episode on Once Upon a Time in America recently, and kind of the thing about, and you also mentioned, I think, Mitch, like those stories being about like, you know, criminals that are terrible people, but you also kind of like them or whatever. Mm-hmm. This kind of felt like that, but it almost felt like James Caan's character Frank was a much more redeemable character. You know, it was almost like I mean, The Godfather is like one of my favorite movies, and it's about like capitalism and corruption, and you know, this character becoming, you know, going from good to being corrupt, and out of like duty and all this stuff. But Frank is like this character that you can kind of see that he's kind of a good person. It almost feels like to me. And then the you know, because he got put in the system, you know, it's like capitalism and corporate America and the system of the government or whatever kind of corrupted him in a way.
Yeah, the industrial prison complex.
Yeah, but he's like he's trying to like his motives aren't like his dream is still just the American dream, right? Like his motives aren't like bad. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, totally.
So I mean, he felt, I guess that's a long way of saying, felt like he's a much more redeemable character than, you know, somebody like Michael Corleone or you know, I can't remember his name in Once Upon a Time in America, but anyway, even though there are obviously some things about his character that are not, you know, you shouldn't like want to grow up to be this guy or anything.
Sure.
Particularly like the scene where he's like dragging the girl out of the club and, you know, kind of forcing her into the car and
yeah,
all of that stuff.
And the colorful racial slurs and stuff.
Yes, yeah, obviously.
That was one thing when I was watching. I was like, oh my, okay. But yeah, no, it's like I totally get what you're saying. He is more empathetic, and I think really for me it was epitomized in that extended dialogue scene in the diner. Because at first I was like, why are we seeing this, right? Because like you mentioned this too, but Michael Mann is like very matter of fact, and he likes to show us, not tell us as much. Like just puts his characters in situations and tells us this is what they do, this is who they are because of what they do, And this scene was like very obvious and in your face because it was just mainly dialogue, him mainly discussing his past and like his time in jail and stuff. And by the end of the film, it comes full circle, because he's got the postcard or the photograph with like Okla on it, and like it's a very clear, like I wouldn't even say metaphor. It's just very in your face about his goals and his dreams, like you were saying, just happiness basically. And
Yeah.
like near the end, like when he knows when to quit, but he's developed that persona he was talking about that helped him survive, like on in the yards, and
Yeah.
in prison. And that's hard for him to stop, because like maybe some of the stuff near the end with Leo, could have been handled with a bit more subtlety, you know
Hmm.
but because he's got that attitude, he's kind of can't escape that, so like I feel like that was perfectly wrapped up. I don't know if we want to get into the ending right now, or
I
if
mean,
that's
we
something
can. Yeah.
for later. But yeah, when he like crumples up the picture, it's like, okay, you've at least tried to or reached some of these goals in some way. Or like Okla, for instance, is gone now, and his wife is gone along with the kid and everything, and like all he has left is vengeance.
Yeah.
So like I feel like it was a great return to that scene. Like that scene was very important. Um, and the way that it wrapped up was great because like the last shot is quite literally him just walking away from it all,
Yeah.
you know, which I loved everything about it. So, and the
Yeah.
music, yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Lewis?
I'm super surprised that you think that the character is like redeemable and like a good
I
character.
think. I
I
mean, I think I'm comparing him to some of these other characters,
yeah,
though. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Because my first note when I was watching this film is James Caan is so cool. Like, there's just no escaping it. He's just incredibly, just
Yeah.
like he's cool.
Yeah.
He's the epitome of the word. But as the film progressed, I was like, I started to like his character less and less and less and less and
Yeah.
less until right at the end, I was like, man, not that I hope he dies, but I was like, I think it would be a fitting end if he dies.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
kind of where I think this is going to go. And it's probably just me projecting, what we've seen in America for the past 8 years or whatever,
Yeah.
is that just these men being like, hey, I'm entitled to this, so I'm going to take it, which is
Right.
exactly
Yeah.
what he does the whole way through.
Yeah.
And I know that is, watching this, that was not the purpose, I'm sure, of when they were making this film. It was just a man that, like, he's simple. He knows what he wants,
Yeah.
and he's gonna get it. But the fact that they're like, hey, I can get you a kid. You want a kid? I got you a kid. That was real unsettling to me. And at the end, it was like, well, where's the rest of my money? I'm gonna kill you if you don't have my money. And it's just that very kind of, no, I'm getting exactly what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the film, but I think that I think he is an anti-hero. I don't think that we're supposed to
Definitely
like him very much. But that's fine. Some of the best people are anti-heroes.
Well, see, I think that's kind of what these movies kind of do is you're not supposed to like them, but then they're so cool that you're just like,
yeah. And I know there was definite things in there that they were commenting on the fact that he'd been in prison since a young age. He misspelled male, the gender male, and spelled mailman and stuff like that. These little hints that like he has been let down by the system. He hasn't had an education because he was arrested at a young age and stuff like that. But I think that for him to be likable, they should have lent into that just a little bit more and been like, he's not. This is not him. this is the this is the world he's grown up in. And I guess we get to see that a little bit with Oakler and his relationship with him. He's very caring, and that's the only time that he doesn't care about money. If you notice, like, it's $6,000, I think, for the lawyer, and he gives him 10, and he's like, "I'll keep the change." It's the only time in the film that he doesn't care how much money is being exchanged.
Yeah.
And I like those scenes between him and Oakler were the best scenes in the film for me.
Yeah. What did y'all think about?
I think you were about to.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, what do you think about Willie Nelson?
Yeah, I thought he was great.
Yeah.
I'm not really aware of many other films that Willie Nelson is in.
Zoolander 2.
I don't think I caught that one. I caught the first one, but I don't think Zoolander 2 was on my watch list. Maybe it should be if Willie Nelson is in it. But yeah, what an interesting choice.
Yeah.
For a film like that too. So I don't know, Brendan or Lewis, if there's like some trivia behind that, like, or if Michael Mann is like friends with him or something. Do you know why he was cast for this role? Or
I didn't find anything, but I also didn't like hardcore research that question.
Yeah. Well, it might have just been like a role that he wrote for him and his mom. He's like, this is like, I see this guy as Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
And there's one part where she calls him an old man, and I had to look up like how old Willie Nelson was at the time that it was filmed. And I was like, was he old in 81 too? Like, he's just been old forever, or like, how old is this guy? It's like,
How old was he? Was he like? I think he's about to be 90.
Yeah, so. I think he was like 50 something. Yeah.
But it's the perfect role for him. I mean, it's like, it is a stereotypical role in terms of like the older, wiser, jailbird that's kind of a father figure to people, but like, you want that person to be Willie Nelson. He just plays it so well. He's great.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And then he goes on to name their kid.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that one scene, it's like funny because they don't even have a name for the kid. Like, they tell the waiter, like, "Oh, the kid doesn't have a name yet." Like, we don't know.
Yeah, I think just in terms of like the character of Frank, like one of the things that I watched this movie with my brother-in-law, and one of the things that he mentioned, like, just the differences between like his character and like gosh, I can't think of these characters' names, but in Goodfellas and in The Godfather, like, the character is hiding all of these things from their wives. It's like they're living these double lives or whatever, and they're like, they have their gangster life and then they have their real life. But with, his relationship with, I guess her name is Jessie, Tuesday Weld. He's like up front. He just lays it all out in that scene, in that diner scene where he's like, "Here's my dream. Here's my life. This is what it's going to be like." And, he doesn't like try to hide it.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if, I mean, I've probably seen that before in other the crime films, but,
I think for those scenes, the lighting especially is genius. Most of the scenes that we get of him, it's at night, it's rainy, it's outside, it's kind of a bit blurry. It's like we're looking through kind of like a windshield, like a windswept windshield. But those scenes, like in the hospital and then in the cafe, it's like bright neon light. It's like it's like he's being vulnerable. He's kind of being seen for the first time. And I thought there was, whenever we got into like a really well lit room, I was like, okay, we're going to find out more about this character now.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be like a theme throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that hospital scene, wasn't there, didn't he like stare down one of the actors at one point?
Yeah. The doctor in that scene, whenever the doctor is like, he's like, sorry, he's died. Apparently James Cann kind of improvised, and that whole when he's just like stares at him and then he like looks back and he like stares at him again, the actor didn't know what was really going on, so his reaction is kind of like real.
I remember
Yeah.
that shot sticking out to me too because of the way it's framed too. It's just like such a dirty frame. It was like great.
Yeah.
Everything about it.
Yeah.
And you don't, I mean, you can kind of see it in James Caan's eyes. Like, you don't know if he's like about to punch the doctor,
Yeah. Or
which
if he's
is what
about
I
to
thought
cry.
might happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
But is it
yeah.
also a racial thing?
Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, yeah, if the character is racist, then possibly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it sort of gave me like Dirty Harry vibes with the racial undertones there. It's kind of icky.
yeah.
A little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah,
That's
they were
the
just kind of
problem. Yeah.
Of it.
sprinkled throughout, and especially like in the scene, the scene with
Leo at the end.
yeah, Robert Prosky, when
Yeah.
he's like such like this nice guy, and there's kind of like a, you know, a just juxtaposition, I guess, with the two. You know, you've got Okla, you know, his one father figure from like the prison, and then you got Leo, who even says like when he first meets him, like, I'm gonna be your father or whatever.
Yeah. Did you notice, just quickly, I don't want to like break your point, but
Yeah, go
then
ahead.
in the next scene when they're in the rooftop, they're dressed the same. Frank and Leo. Like
I
they're
did-
both wearing yellow
Oh,
like
okay.
button-ups.
I
And
didn't notice that.
Leo's got like aviator like reading glasses. And Frank's got aviator sunglasses on.
Oh, nice.
When they're on top of the rooftops, they just look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Why? And I guess it's that. I guess it's that, like, he's attaching himself to this new father figure.
Yeah, yeah. But then it's like, yeah, and this was apparently Robert Prosky's like film debut. And
Wow.
that scene just is so ugly, man. Like,
Yeah,
that
it's such a
switch.
villainous speech. It's like
Yeah.
so over the top,
and then the way that they shoot it, like he shoots it like with the camera pointing straight up, back, you know, upside down, like so his head is like coming up down from the top of the frame, you know, so his head's upside down, and then it's also like out of focus, but it like doesn't matter, like that performance is just like seeping through, and he's just like such an ugly, like, and I don't mean in terms of looks, I just mean in terms of like his character is an ugly person, you know.
Can we also talk about that death scene?
Jim
When he-
Belushi? Or
well, there's that one, but also Prosky's death scene as well. Like,
yeah.
God, it's so like over the top and dramatic.
Yeah,
that is one thing about the film is like the music and like some of the death scenes and stuff were like it gave me that 80s cheese.
Yeah,
that I enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like it's weird because it's like when I was a kid, I did think stuff like that was super cheesy, you know, especially like the music part of it. But now it's like, it just seems so cool.
Yeah.
You know, especially the music is like, it's almost like, I don't know, you can't do an 80s movie better than, you know, a movie that was actually made in the 80s.
Yeah.
but it did remind me of Drive a lot because of the, you know, the music and the driving at night scenes and stuff like that. That's where some of that was coming through, and just like the cool, collected, which I haven't seen Drive since it came out, so it's just, you know, from
there's
what I can
that one shot in particular close to the end. I think it's like after he leaves Leo after threatening him, where the camera is like on the hood of the car.
Yes, yeah.
And the neon lights are just like cascading over the surface of it.
Yeah.
And I just I love that shot for sure.
Yeah.
With the music as well, like the synth, the neon lights. It's just also Drive, like I said, is like one of my favorite movies. So there are a lot of similarities to it. I feel like it's a similar character where like you feel like you're supposed to root for this guy, but he also does terrible things.
Yeah.
And also sort of like an ambiguous ending as well. Yeah. Where he kind of like loses the girl, loses the kid, like has his revenge eventually on the villain, and you know, nearly escapes death. So there are a lot of similarities there for sure. So, you know, that may have been a subconscious thing in picking this movie too. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's so many shots in this movie that kind of blew me away. I mean, right off the bat, there's the shot when he's drilling into the safe, and then the camera goes into the hole,
Oh yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like, nowadays you see stuff like that done with CGI all the time, where they have like these new long lenses that they can actually put in tiny little spaces, which it might be what they did for that shot, but right off the bat, it's like, wow, this is
Yeah.
super cool the way that it's
Right.
shot.
And I
Yeah.
looked up some stuff about the making of the film as well, and they actually like used real tools and everything too. One occasion at least like gave James Caan the journal. He's like, "All right, break into the safe."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let me figure
Yeah.
out how to do this. And I think that comes across in the film too, as like being really authentic. Especially like the last heist, I think it was. It's like a very extended scene. Well, like also the opening too, but it's just a lot of like extended scenes of breaking into the safe, but by the end of it, you sort of like feel like you've gone through it as well. Like there's that sense of satisfaction almost
Yeah.
there. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think that adds to his character a little bit and why he's so dependent on getting the money that he was promised, because we see the process he has to go through to earn that money. And it's not easy. I mean, he's had to wait a week to get this particular, piece that he needs to blow open the doors and stuff like that, and he also has to try it out, make sure it works, kind of get in unnoticed, all this kind of stuff. And I think that the mechanics behind how he really breaks in is to show us, hey, this isn't, a stethoscope up to the safe turning. Oh, got it. This is like proper safe breaking and entering kind of stuff.
This isn't Bottle Rocket.
Yeah. Open the safe, please.
Yeah, for sure. Like that scene, that last heist scene when they finally get in the safe and stuff, and then Jim Belushi is in there getting the diamonds, and Frank grabs the chair and takes a seat and like pulls out a cigarette and takes a smoke, and his face is all dirty, and the camera is just kind of slowly sitting on him, and the music starts up, and then it like cuts to the beach scene.
Yeah, it's kind of like this false
Yeah.
ending. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, this is the ending that he wants, and it gives it to us for a small amount of time before ripping it away.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of like what Lewis was saying, that it you see the work that he put into it, and you kind of see him get the satisfaction, and then to have it taken away, then you're rooting for him at the end when he goes and
Burns all the cars and blows.
yeah. Which I don't know why all of that was necessary. Is like,
It was
if
so
it was
cool,
that
though.
easy to kill the guys, couldn't you just have killed the guys and then kept
That
your
was-
house?
It was the cooler option.
Yeah. Total anarchy.
Yeah.
Isn't he just trying to like burn everything that he was? Isn't this like his start again? No,
I mean,
it's
possibly.
Like, this was a cover for me, so I'm going to get rid of it all. And that's, I think that is very heavy-handed in terms of like, he's blowing up every single car that's on the lot. It's like, he doesn't need to do that. You could have just seen him, throwing the keys.
Yeah.
Right.
that he had to get in like into the lot, or he didn't need to go and blow up the bar, which is very extreme. I was like, who's in there? Is Leo in there? Like, why is he blowing that up? Why is that exploded? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I assumed that the bar was owned by Leo or something, right? But
yeah, I think so.
yeah. But there is some debate between Michael Mann and James Cann as to what happens to Frank after he walks down the street at the end. Mann doesn't have an optimistic view of what happens to Frank, even going so far as saying, "Where is he going? Nowhere." However, Caan thinks that a man with Frank's determination would get everything he lost back no matter what. Which that's kind of what I assumed, was that, after you see him walk away, he just goes to wherever his wife and kid is, and it's like, all right, we're just going to start over.
Yeah.
I don't think that
After
would
all
work,
that.
though.
Yeah, after the way he sent her away.
I think that like if he found his wife and I guess, child now. Like after a while, he'd just get bored. Like it's not, he's kind of envisioned that this is going to be the perfect life for him. I don't think it is. I don't think it's, it's never as good as you think. And I think that his aggression would start coming out. I don't think it would end happily.
Yeah, it was all about the chase, basically. The thrill of the chase, and once you get a taste of it, it's like, what's next?
So, I mean, the title is Thief. He is a thief.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got from it too. Like he literally crumples up his hopes and dreams.
Yeah, I know.
After bringing the car, and he's like, okay, something else. So like the impression that I got from it is that he was like moving on to something else. Because the way he sent her off was very abrupt, but like also like you were saying, Lewis, like he takes what he wants. So, I could also see that too. Like he's just like, all right, I'm back. I'm taking you back. Like just that personality. But that's not really what I got from it. I got from it that like he has a fresh start, so he's basically like the phoenix, like rising from the flames and ashes of everything that he's left in his wake.
What about this idea? What if he did die? What if the whole like, pulling the shirt off and seeing that there was a bulletproof vest was just, his last thoughts in the moment, as he was dying, laying there in the grass, was that like, what if I actually had like a bulletproof vest on and I just got up and walked away? But he's like dead and he's walking to, the afterlife.
I thought that's what Oculus' death was going to be like, foreshadowing. Once you get out, it's just death. Not to make it sound too morbid, but as soon as Oculus is out of prison, he dies. And I thought, this might be foreshadowing for when Frank finally gets free of this. He's going to die. So when he went to the house, I was like, it's going to end with him being the last one alive, but he's going to die.
Yeah.
So when he starts walking away, I was like, okay. Fair. That's not what I expected to happen at all.
Yeah,
which is good. So,
yeah.
What about you, Mitch?
Yeah, no, I was kind of like on track with you. I thought that he was going to die. I thought that he was going to die for sure. Because honestly, like, I'm kind of with you. Like, I feel like the decisions that he's made and the things that he's done, like not saying that he deserves it, but it was like, once he chooses just pure vengeance, like I expected him to go out, with a bang or something. So I guess it gets points for like subverting expectations there. In that way. Also, of course, he could have just been shot and decided to walk off, and then shortly after he just keels over and drops dead. Like, I don't know, but yeah.
If the shot had just gone on for a few more seconds, it would have been like, ugh.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy films where it's like there's that subversion, there's like the false ending sort of thing where it's like, well, it can't be that simple sort of thing, where it keeps you on the edge of your seat in a way that's like you said earlier, it's not like promising like a big action set piece, but it's like carrying you along. At least subconsciously, in a way where you're like, this can't be that simple. Like you expect more. So I did enjoy that because I wasn't quite sure how it was all going to wrap up, so I definitely found that exciting. So,
yeah.
And I think that's the genius of this film, is that it gives you both endings, right? Like Brandon was saying, you watch and you're like, oh, he's free. He did it. He's out. Yeah. And then if you sit and think about it for a minute, you're like, but for what? Like, what else? Like, what's he going to now? Is his wife and his child have left. He doesn't know where they've gone. Like, he knows where they've gone initially, but, they've probably moved on by now. And like, what's he going to? So it gives you the kind of like the happy ending, quote unquote, and then the like sadder, more kind of realist ending.
Right. I think that's what gives it like that true dark noir flair,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what do you guys think of Jim Belushi?
I thought it was great. I was so disappointed when Barry died, his character.
Yeah, I know.
I felt it was so unnecessary. Barry didn't need to be there. Oh, Barry.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He was so
Death
happy on the
according to
beach,
Jim.
Yeah, he was
just running and frolicking, and
He's the perfect epitome of like, you got it, boss. Like the
Yeah,
wisecracking. Whatever you say, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It was great, and his little wife as well. Yeah, they were so
Mhm.
happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing but joy.
Oh, Barry.
I don't think you guys heard me, but I said death according to Jim.
So he's related to the other Belushi, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
John Belushi, right?
Yeah.
For-
And did he die around this time?
Yeah,
Was
I
it
mean,
around
it,
this
it
time?
had to have been. It had to have been soon after this. Apparently, John Belushi did visit this set quite a bit,
Okay.
and they would
Yeah.
hang out, and they would go to a bar that they. I guess the Blues Brothers wasn't out yet, right? Because it says they went to a bar that they either used for Blues Brothers or they either already used it or ended up using it.
So Blues
afterwards.
Brothers came out 1980, so the year
Okay,
before.
so this would
probably
be
while they
after,
were
yeah.
filming it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he died in 82, so the year after.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
But I
Sad.
think he's. I mean, I think that Jim Belushi is really, really good in this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He plays that supporting character really well, and he never kind of. I don't know. It's always authentic. Everything in this film felt authentic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also interesting too, because I feel like we didn't get much backstory for his character. But then again, that's something with Michael Mann. It's like it's very straightforward, it's very matter of fact. But you feel like you know just enough information about the characters to understand who they are.
Yeah.
And like part of the build up is discovering like what they're actually gonna do.
Yeah.
So I think he's good at not revealing too much about a character, but like also letting you know exactly who they are in the moment.
Yeah.
So I think he was very good in that role. So also
Yeah,
it was an
definitely.
interesting role to see him in. It's an interesting role to see all of these people in, actually. Like
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tuesday Weld, she was Once Upon a Time in America, right?
She was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she's pretty famous for turning down every big role that she got. In terms of, I think she was offered like Bonnie and Clyde, and she turned it down. And she was offered like a handful of other like Star Maker, vehicles for women and stuff, and she just turned them all down. She
Wow.
was just not interested at all. I think, and also she was like an alcoholic at the age of 10.
Ooh.
So yeah, she's got a very checkered past.
Wow.
Yeah, because she looks like, both James Cann and Tuesday Weld look like 40s in this film, and I know they probably are. I know they're supposed to be a bit older, but they're not like, the Bonnie and Clyde. It's kind of an older generation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's a bit different to what we've seen before, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What other films has she been in? Because I don't.
So she was in Once Upon a Time in America,
Right.
Which is her biggest film. Biggest film credited on IMDb.
I see. Okay.
Mhm.
But and then the second one is Thief. She was also in Falling Down, which I've seen. With
Michael Douglas.
Yeah, Michael Douglas.
Yes, I remember that film.
And then Play It As It Lays is her fourth thing on IMDb right now, anyway.
Mm.
But
yeah, kind of bit parts, in like a lot of stuff, or like not super well known. Probably missed the big ones, and then signed on for the ones that didn't do as well.
Yeah. And I don't think I've actually seen Jim Belushi in any films. Of course, I've seen Life According to Jim a few times, but
Yeah.
every once in a while when that was on.
Here it is. So some of the films that Weld turned down: Bonnie and Clyde, Rosemary's Baby, True Grit, Cactus Flower, and Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice.
Wow.
And are these was True Grit the old one or the new one?
The old one. So John Wayne,
Wow.
when she was going to play the younger girl in that.
That's so wild.
Yeah, all these films that people went on to get nominated for Academy Awards for.
Yeah,
and she turned them down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But she's fantastic in this. I think she's.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, she plays that role really well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else about this film you guys want to talk about? I think for me, it's mainly just. I think the thing that I'm taking away from this film mostly is like the camera work and the style of Michael Mann just being so distinct. I mean, James Caan, of course, is incredible, and if I'm ever talking about him with anyone, I would of course recommend this movie. And he is obviously a big standout, but I just can't get over the cinematography and camera work.
Yeah.
Like the world that Michael Mann was able to create so easily, and his style that's just so distinct right off the bat.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's the color blue that sticks with me. The whole film just has this blue tint, and it just makes you feel like it's just melancholy, for this character to just be wanting to have a normal life. It's tinged with this sadness all the way through. And then when Ockler dies, they shout through, "Code Blue, Code Blue." And I was like he's just so sad, this character, and like just wanting that normal life. And it's a film that as soon as it finished, if I hadn't wanted to go and watch Heat straight away, I would have pressed play again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's something I would have never caught. Like I didn't catch that at all. But that's a good catch.
Yeah, that's cool.
The cold blue. I wonder if it was like intentional or.
I think
maybe
they
I
had
don't
to
know.
have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if do they have codes in hospitals for? I assume that they do.
Yeah.
To get people to move, but
all the doctors watching the movie were just like, "This is so fake."
Code Blue means someone's parked in a disabled spot when they're not disabled.
Right. I don't know. I feel like Michael Mann would have researched that, right?
Yeah.
So yes. So apparently, Code Blue is respiratory cardiac arrest. So it is a real thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Goes deeper and deeper.
Well, and doesn't Willie Nelson, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could just take this and analyze it. Like, how many blue references can we find?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
How many degrees of blue?
Yeah. Even the fires are like blue. They're so hot that even like the flames are blue.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You could write, like you said, you could write a whole thesis on the color blue.
Yeah. That's great. What about you, Mitch? Any final thoughts or things that you're being left with?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, just pretty much everything you guys were saying too. Like the cinematography is what, like I said, like the neon and the framing, like the shots were just incredible, and the world building. Like I feel like it feels so authentic, like it feels like just a slice, like you're watching it happen. It doesn't feel fake, and I think that Michael Mann's style and everything that came into being with this film is just sort of like lightning in a bottle. Like if it was anybody else, different director, different cast, it could have been not as good. So like I really enjoyed the film. I think that I would definitely recommend it to people as well. So yeah, like I'm glad that we all got to watch this for the first time and experience it together. And yeah.
Yeah, man. Thank you for bringing it to us.
Yeah.
Last thing, I just want to say that as first feature film, this is the most self-assured piece of work that I've seen a director put out first. It is like mid-career high. This is how good this film. It's kind of you can't believe that he didn't already have a team that he'd worked on for 3 or 4 films before.
Yeah.
That kind of knew how he worked, that this was the first thing that they put together. It's incredible.
Right. And it offers a ton of insight into his later work too.
Yeah.
For sure. Because I remember, like I said, like Miami Vice was the first film that I saw by Michael Mann, and I just remember being really thrown off by it. Like, what in the hell is this? Why did they take Miami Vice and do this with it? But I was kind of just like enthralled with it, and I think going back and watching his first film is really telling. It's like you appreciate it more, you appreciate his later work more, and you see where he was trying to go. So definitely a great study, a film study.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, for those listening, you can find the film. It's currently streaming on Tubi, and it's also became part of the Criterion Collection in 2014. There's a 4K master of it through them, and it is known as Spine Number 691.
Yeah. Added it to the collection myself this week. So
nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, usually at this part of the show, Lewis and I try to guess what each other rated the film on Letterboxd, but we're gonna let Mitch try to guess, and then we'll guess what Mitch rated it.
So like I checked Letterboxd and I saw that you guys had seen the film. I didn't see any ratings on there.
Yeah,
we sneaky.
That's why we didn't put them. We always wait until the show so that we can guess.
From the general vibe that I got, I'm thinking that Brandon, you rated it probably higher.
Okay.
Than Lewis is gonna be my guess. So I'm gonna guess that Lewis, like, you rated this probably like 3.5 stars.
Okay.
And Brandon, I'm gonna guess that you rated it 4.
All right. I did rate it 4.
I rated it 5.
Oh
wow!
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
If I feel the need to press play as soon as it finishes again, it's a 5-star film.
Great.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I was just completely gripped by it. So
yeah,
it's brilliant.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and you rated it 4?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, so I guessed correctly.
You did.
And
yes.
Yours, not at all. I also rated it 4, Brandon. So
nice.
We're right there.
Yeah. I mean, I think this film could end up being a 5. Eventually, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. It is. Sure. It is a little bit slow, but it's like that's not really a downfall to the movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to rewatch it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Cool.
I may change my rating over time, but as of now, that's where it stands.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, folks, we have come to the part of the show where I get to tell you what we're watching next week. So thank you for getting to this part. If you made it, congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah. So as I said at the beginning, I picked a film that is not old. It's not that old. It is a film that used to be my favorite film for a while when I was like, late teenage years.
Yeah.
The film is Sin City from 2005.
Oh,
yeah.
So Robert Rodriguez was like one of my first director obsessions, and just like completely obsessed over his filmography and his book Rebel Without a Crew, and had a huge influence on me as a young filmmaker. And yeah, I just loved Sin City so much, and I haven't watched it in a long time, so we'll see
Cool.
if I still feel the same. And I know you've already seen it, Lewis, but
Yeah.
next week is episode 50, if you can believe it.
Oh,
Whoa, I didn't even know. I didn't even
congrats,
Yeah.
guys.
cross my mind.
It is pretty wild. So I figured,
is.
Picking a film that was like, kind of a guilty pleasure, used to be a
Yeah.
favorite film. I could talk about Robert Rodriguez for like 4 hours.
Cool.
Would be a good, episode 50 episode.
Yeah.
I'm
That'd be
excited to
sad.
see what you pick the next week after that, because I don't know. It's like film noir is so.
Yeah.
It is kind of specific, but also not. You can kind of.
That's what I was going to say at the top. It's such a beautiful thing because there's so many elements to it that you can attribute to noir, that it's not, you can't pin it down.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing. Everything has elements of it. Anything can be a noir if it's got one or two things in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, I will definitely be rewatching that film as well because it's been years since I've seen it too. So
Sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't wait to listen to that episode.
Yeah, man. Thank you again for being here. This has been awesome. We'll have you back again.
Awesome. I hope so.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you got a high bar for the next film to pick. It's going to have to
do my
live up
best.
to Thief.
Well, everyone, this is the end of the show. And again, you can find us on all social media platforms at Film Church Radio. Please go give us a follow. And, we do post cool things on there on different social channels. So you have reasons to follow all the different ones. And you can also follow me on Letterboxd at Selman Scope, and you can follow Lewis at Walker Lewis 3007, and you can find Mitch on Letterboxd at Broken Lens Films. There you can keep up with what we've been watching and see what we rate things throughout the week, and anticipate the show and see what's on our watch list, and recommend things to us. All of our back episodes, of course, are streaming on all good podcast platforms. Please share it with your friends, and let's keep this congregation growing and build this church family up. You can also find Mitch on YouTube, where you can see some of his work at Broken Lens Films there, and he also has a podcast called Real Inspectors. You can find him there as well. So, the only thing I have left to say is, Lewis, can I get some more cream?
What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? It's cottage cheese.
All right, y'all. Say your Film Church prayers, and we'll see you next week.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen.